Hello, Grade 12. It's good to get in touch with you again. I just want to do a little video on the basics. Where are we? Where are we going? Just as a reassuring measure to make sure that you haven't forgotten anything and you don't have to feel powerless, because you can watch and say, oh, yeah, done that, and maybe be very proud of how far we've come. So let's have a look. Grade 12 history. We've done a project. Then I gave you work to do of revising your notes on Cuba, civil rights movement, and make a poster of the civil rights movement. It was who, what, where, when. We were actually supposed to do that in February. And then there was the Black Power movement. So that was your own stuff that you worked on when lockdown started. I had asked you even before lockdown that we would do 3 exercises. I gave you the memos, asked you to do them and mark them so that we can put it in our portfolio when we return. Then there was some instructions to do some definitions, do some reading, make more notes on paper 1 stuff: Cuba, civil rights movement, Black Power movement. Right. So that was our first steps. That was getting paper 1 sorted. Then I moved you to Road to Democracy. And what I asked you to do was to read all the stuff in the textbooks and the notes, make a poster. I gave you 3 videos to watch on how to make that poster, 3 or 4, I can't even remember, sorry guys. And then there were no activities per se. There was the set of videos, there was the reading to do, and then I asked if you could watch Miracle Rising, the documentary, to do that. And then there was the big question about, must I write the essay or not? And I said, at this stage, you don't have to write the essay if you're not ready to, but maybe you could make a start of it. But most importantly was to make a poster for yourself. Now, when I say poster, it could just be a whole lot of sheets of paper joined together, pasted together, that it folds out into a poster-like thing, but it was a road, remember? And the good stuff was at the top, the bad stuff was at the bottom. Okay, so that was Road to Democracy. Then I moved you over to TRC. I gave you a short video on what to look out for. I gave you activities to do. I gave you reading to do, and I asked you to make notes on it. Then I just wanted to point out to you that in the notes you received at the beginning of the year, you should find this, which is a lovely summary of the TRC. And then you'll see there is a further explanation of the TRC. More of an explanation of the TRC. There are some case studies of the TRC, which I told you was very important. And there's more case studies, and there is the terminology that you need. So that's a very useful set of notes that you already have with you. One thing that I haven't referenced was that I also gave you a set of notes that looks like this. And it's from an intervention program, and it says, did the TRC succeed? And what you'll see is that it has a source, it has questions, it has explanations of what to do, and then you'll see that there's lots of help there to understand the work. Okay, so I didn't say that you needed to go through it, but you'll see the answers are also there. Okay. So that could be something that you want to do, but notice here where it says extended writing. You wouldn't do that because we don't do an essay on TRC. So you could glance through that if you wanted. Memos should be at the back of those activities. Right, then I moved over to Black Power Movement. In fact, we're going back because I had said you should work on Black Power Movement. I took us back to Black Power Movement, and I gave you some activities to do. So hopefully you did those activities from the 2 textbooks. That means that we would be sorted with Black Power Movement. And then I took you to the very, very last section of our syllabus, which is Challenge of Black Consciousness, and that should ideally be what you are still busy with right up until the end of this month. So there you have the pages that I told you to read. Then there is a definition I asked you to look up, to work on, to find a definition of Black consciousness. I asked you to make a summary, and then I asked you to have a look at that. I got myself confused. And then I gave you activities to do for the end of May. Right, I also asked you to look for this note. So I didn't give you work from this note yet. I first wanted you to do what was on the note. But if you can look out for a note that says, Black Man, you are on your own worksheet. And you'll see there's questions there. and then you'll see that there is a black manual on your own set of notes. And if you wanted to, you could get started on that, looking through it. It explains the section of work by looking at Steve Biko, and it's very, very interesting. Okay, so have a look for that, and then you'll also find that I've given you these notes, which is Steve Biko. And again, it's a set of notes from an intervention program that gives you sources, gives you questions, gives you some tips. Okay. And often these sources do come up. Right. You might also find this note, which is a summary of some of the work. And then here are some of the answers to some of those questions. What you don't have is the answers to questions that you did from the textbooks, and that I would give you when we got back to school. I would have it printed and give that to you. Okay, so that's what we've been doing for now, and so I think it's important if we just look at it like this. So we can say, okay, done, this, done, essay, this, okay, worked on that, done my TRC, and then I've just shown you there are extra notes in your pile from the beginning of the year. Black Power revision, news and last section, challenge of Black consciousness. Okay, now I want to remind you that it can look like a lot, but you also need to remember that that means that if we get back together again, then you've done all the work. And then that will allow me to do the work in class of pulling together stuff that you worked on, stuff that was confusing for you, etc. So your work, when you go back to school, will be for me to work so that you can relax knowing you've done your parts of that communal getting us through matric section. I hope that makes sense. Then grade 12s, I think your psychological and your emotional well-being is paramount at this stage. And so I hope you are trying to stay positive and trying to be the best you that you can be, as lonely or scared or fearful as you might be. And at the trial exams and in the final exams, I always start every exam for trials and finals. And what I would always do for the matrics is say the same thing every single exam they wrote. And they would smile every time, knowing that that was our thing. And so I'm going to give it to you early because I think you are having trials of your own. And that is to say to you, you are important, you are special, you are smart, you are smarter than you think. And most importantly, you are loved. Go well, grade 12s, and good luck with the work.